Ken Fatula. I'm not a chef. Everybody knows that. But I just thought that I would mention some tips, or at least what has worked for me in terms of how to make cooking a little easier. And one of the things that you'll see it, I'm going to be discussing the stuff that I've got, giving you some hints, and I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's informative, and by no means is this comprehensive, totally exhaustive. It's not. But do some research. Enjoy. This house was built in like the mid-60s, and it's been a great house. But of course, I'm old now, and I don't like bending over to get stuff. And what I would like to have are cabinets that I can pull things out. Oh, we got a mess on that. Oh, that happened yesterday with this. Don't look at that. Back parchment paper. I think I discussed this with you before. I'm not telling you what to buy, but cooking, in order to do a good job, if you're preparing food, and I don't care if it's baking or if it's doing something, we use a cast iron skillet. Do you want to go and buy a cast iron skillet? Frankly, I think you should have one. And if you're going to buy any kind of cookware, first of all, if you're going to get non-stick, and they don't last, none of the finishes last forever, but ceramic is the way to go. So you get ceramic and stainless steel with an aluminum bottom, because you want to have something to distribute the heat and something that's a good conductor. They make cookware that's tri-ply, where you got stainless and then there's a high carbon steel insert, and then stainless, it's sandwiched. They're pretty good too. I got my stuff in 1982, stainless steel, and we're still using it. So it's just a matter of what you want. But the other thing that people often they overlook is get yourself some decent knives. And they're not terribly expensive. Find one that feels good in your hand that you can use. And, you know, like a paring knife. I don't use a paring knife very often because I do prefer having a big blade, because it's a bigger cut on my hand then. But good knives. There are a couple other things that are nice to have, but cookware, something that you can cut with, a spatula, and if you've got cookware, well, here, I'm just going to get this out. This is not part of any cooking. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just telling you what works for me. We do have some wooden ladles. When we're using our ceramic stuff, we use things that have silicone. That's some kind of plastic. I'm assuming it has a silicone base or polycarbonate. I don't know. A spatula, a rubber spatula. You already saw my stainless spatula if you've ever watched. I've got a wooden handled stainless steel, really thin bladed spatula. These are the kinds of things that they're just handy. It makes things easier. As far as measuring, and I do some measuring. When I make cookies, baby, I am meticulous. My cookies, I'm not saying they're the best, but there aren't many people that have as much flavor in my cookies. They're never burned because of the sheet that I use, which was an air bake. Let me explain air bake. It's got a barrier of air between two sheets of aluminum. The heat will bake the cookie, but it doesn't transfer all of the heat to the bottom of the cookie, because at that point you've got steel or you've got some kind of metal, and it can burn the cookie. I have never burned the bottom of a cookie on one of these sheets. And the reason that I use the parchment paper is because it's a lot easier to clean up. The only drawback with that is you got to be careful when you clean them. You never immerse an air bake, because what will happen, it'll get water between the layers, and then if you put it in the oven, the water tries to find a way out, and sometimes it'll warp it or mess it up. Anyway, oh, by the way, this is a keepsake from my wife and I. 3 years in the mid-70s, I should say, mid-70s, we were stationed in Augsburg, Germany. At the time, Augsburg had more spies in it than any other town in the world. Cutting boards. I don't care what kind of cutting boards. If you go on Cook's website, they'll tell you about all kinds of things that you can get, the best this, the best that. Later, I'm going to be using this thing called a mandolin. In fact, I did use it, and I'll explain it to you. If you're going to use a mandolin, and I watched a guy do this on, I think it was Cook's, or no, Chopped, the show that's on Food Network. And the guy was using the mandolin, and it's got a blade, and the blade is fairly sharp. And while he was going along, he suddenly mandolined his finger, and he contaminated all the food that he made. So, well, I hope that that was somewhat informative. Even if you disagree with it, that's fine. Like I said, I was just giving you my impressions, the stuff that I do. And I appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like me. Please, somebody like me. God bless.